The President of the European Central Bank, Christine Lagarde, has said she expects a strong and united response from the EU to President Trump's US tariff plans. She was speaking in Dublin as the Taoiseach warned of the gravity of the situation facing the Irish economy from a trade war on both sides of the Atlantic.
With just hours to go before the Trump administration's tariffs take effect, pressure is mounting on the government about what will happen next. The response will come from the EU, which is prepared to introduce retaliatory measures, but they too could pose huge challenges for Ireland.
As the European Union formulates its response, the chief responsibility of government is to stand up for Ireland's interests, to protect Irish jobs, Irish industry and the prosperity of our people.
This is, without question, the most serious issue to face the Irish economy in a long time. It's clear that the scale of these tariffs will be very, very significant in European terms.
Outside Leinster House, Ryanair CEO Michael O'Leary struck a more optimistic tone.
Look, I mean, all the evidence thus far with Trump is that he'll impose caps, realise he's made a mistake, and then he'll vary them. Look, Trump is what Trump is. We have to deal with it for the next 4 years. It doesn't stop Ireland growing.
The European Central Bank President Christine Lagarde was being presented with an award at UCD this afternoon and was asked about the EU's response to the tariffs.
Oh, what we expect from Europe is what is really interesting. Strong and together.
Thank you very much.
But with 27 EU members with differing agendas, getting an agreed response will be easier said than done.
The Trump administration is to announce its plans for tariffs on goods imported by the US tonight, with new duties taking effect tomorrow. Last night, President Trump met his trade team to discuss the measures. Our Washington correspondent, Sean Whelan, has been looking at why Donald Trump is taking these measures.
The president says his tariff plan is about MARA, Make America Rich Again. But he says not to worry, he's going to be nice about it.
We're going to be very fair. We're going to be very nice, actually. We have not been treated nicely by other countries, but we're going to be nice. So I think people will be pleasantly surprised, but it's going to make our country very rich.
What he wants to see is more of this. A giant Hyundai car factory opened in Georgia last week, the third plant the Korean company operates in the US. That's the apparent motivation behind the 25% tariff on imported cars announced last week. But he also has his eyes on other industries.
We do have a massive deficit with Ireland, because Ireland was very smart. They took our pharmaceutical companies away from presidents that didn't know what they were doing.
But these aren't the only messages from the administration. Tariffs on Mexico and Canada were said to be about stopping illegal drugs. Yesterday, the reason was unfair restrictions on American exports.
Too many foreign countries have their markets closed to our exports. This is fundamentally unfair.
Some American industries think tariffs will be good for them. Others, mainly exporters, think they'll be bad.
You know, if I'm a producer of a good, and I'm very much need the U.S. marketplace, then I run a risk. Do I shut down and go out of business, or do I take a loss for a while and see if I can adjust and lower my costs and become competitive again? It's a decision everyone's going to have to make individually.
Economists think they'll cause price rises for American consumers, while the Democrats say the estimated $700 billion the government expects to raise is just another tax hike.
This will be the largest tax increase on American consumers in modern times.
Either way, when the world's biggest economy raises taxes on imports, the rest of the world takes notice.
Well, for more on this, we're joined now by our Economics and Public Affairs correspondent, David Murphy, who's in studio, and also Sean Whelan, who's in Washington. David, to you first. We've been hearing throughout the day Ireland and the rest of the EU is very worried about what's to come, and they're considering options.
That's right. So I think the first response is going to come tomorrow from the EU, with Ursula von der Leyen giving an address to the European Parliament. And she's likely to say that she regrets what's happened, that it hasn't been fair. And she's possibly going to indicate the shape of what's going to come in terms of reciprocal measures. Now, they could be fully announced in the next few days, and then the question mark is when they would be implemented. Now, up until now, there's been a feeling about how isolated Ireland is, particularly on the issue of pharmaceuticals. There's a feeling within government that there are a number of other countries who are exposed, maybe not as much as Ireland, but they are exposed to this. So the next question is, what exactly is going to happen? And there are three big measures that the EU could look at. The first one would be some form of digital tax. Now, that could be very tricky for Ireland with all our technology companies. The second one would be a tariff in relation to pharmaceuticals. That would also cause problems for Ireland. And a third one would be anti-coercion measures. So this is where, if, for instance, a consumer is subscribing to a software platform or to a streaming platform, potentially they wouldn't have to pay it anymore under EU rules. And it would obviously cause huge difficulty for the technology companies. Now, I understand that the Taoiseach Simon Harris has been in close contact today with the European Trade Commissioner Maroš Šefčovič. So we'll see what the response is going to be from Europe and from the Irish government, which will probably follow around 12:30 tomorrow.
All right, that's great. Thank you, David. And Sean Whelan, we know that we're expecting to hear from President Trump about 9 o'clock this evening, Irish time. Any more hints as to what we can expect?
Not really, Sharon. I mean, there's been all kinds of speculation about, is this going to be a broadly based tariff measure applying a single rate to 20% is talked of a lot to all imports from all over the world, or is it going to be different rates for different products from different countries? Is it going to try and target individual countries within groups like the European Union, etc., etc.? Nobody knows, and it's only in the last hour or so that they've been saying that President Trump has finally made up his mind, having received detailed reports yesterday. It seems a bit strange, though, if you're going to make a major announcement like this that you've only decided a couple of hours beforehand. It doesn't suggest a very thorough working of the numbers, really. And that's the kind of thing that does not fill people with confidence. There's a lot of nervousness here in America. The price of gold has gone up at an extraordinary rate over the past couple of weeks as investors are looking for a safe haven. They don't trust the stock market. Stock market is tanking because of all of this uncertainty. Businesses do not like uncertainty, and that White House behind us has been generating uncertainty at a quite extraordinary rate over this issue of tariffs. Most economists here do not think tariffs are a good idea. In general, they think that these numbers that the administration are talking about, raising $600–700 billion a year by taxing foreign imports, they'd be lucky to see even half of that amount. And they think that the country that will suffer the most by these tariffs being imposed is America. It's not the other countries. But the general consensus here is that there are only two countries abroad that can do serious damage to the United States with countermeasures. One is China, the other is the European Union. So they will be looking to see what countermeasures, if any, are adopted by the European Union. And the other thing to watch out for, they've been talking a lot about a 20% tariff rate. We heard Trump in that clip suggesting that it might be lower. If it is lower, there might be a kind of a relief surge as people say, oh, we were expecting 20%, it was only 10%. A lot still to come out later on today.
And Sean, separately this evening, there's some rumours and talk about Elon Musk and his continuing role in the public service there in the United States. What's the White House been saying about it?
Well, Politico is reporting that the President briefed his cabinet at a meeting last week that Elon Musk would be transitioning out of active work for the government. He's on this 130-day standard government contractor type of contract. It was never envisaged that he would be sticking around for the long haul. Indeed, the whole Doge project was supposed to be wound up by the 4th of July next year, the 250th anniversary of the foundation of this state. So it was always going to be a short-term project, but the impact that it's been having, Musk's government work has been having on his own businesses have been really, really damaging, and so it was always a matter of time before he would be transitioning out, leaving government employment.
All right, Sean Whelan from Washington, thank you for that. And David Murphy here in studio, thank you also.